listeners, Brittany and Marie here with another Property Management Show podcast. Today, we have the wonderful Melissa from Prandi Property Management with us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, I'm excited to be back again.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fun.
We're excited to have you too. And today, Melissa's going to be talking about building teams and what that means for property management companies and making sure that your team does a good job of representing your business. Before we get into that, I wanted to just start off with you telling us just like a quick recap of like where you're at in your business.
Some people don't know me, right?
Yeah.
So as you hear, I'm Melissa Prandi. I own Prandi Property Management, and we're located in Fourandhalf, California. I like to say we're right over the Golden Gate Bridge, between the Golden Gate Bridge and the Napa Valley. I've been just celebrated 37 years in the business. Can you believe that?
Wow.
I started when I was 19 as the receptionist.
At this company
At this
too.
company.
I feel like you've told me that multiple times, but every time you tell me, I just get shocked. It's so cool.
Started as a receptionist. I went out on a maternity leave on a Wednesday at 5 o'clock. And Thursday morning, grocery shopping, because I knew my family was going to want to be fed when they come to see the new baby. And Friday morning, I went into the labor, went over the Golden Gate Bridge, 10 minutes to 8, got there, and 10 minutes to 9, Matt was born 1 hour later. And I tell that story a lot because the women can relate. You know, us ladies are multitaskers. We still do a lot of the basic household and the day-to-day things as a mom, and we're always really good with our friends. And then we have to run a business.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's good for the viewers to know that when I bought the company, we were really small. So I had a full-time bookkeeper and a 3/4 time property manager and myself. So now we have 3 virtual assistants and a staff of 15. So we're going to talk about the meld of how you bring all those personalities together and some tricks of the trade.
That's awesome. I can't wait. It's very exciting.
Very exciting. And, talking about the team is something most people would think that is like, it's too basic. But if you don't take care of the basics, then how do you expect to grow and scale as a business?
Right. Your team is your foundation.
Mm-hmm. And I get asked by smaller companies that only have 1 or 2, individuals working for them, kind of like, where do you start? So we're going to go maybe talk a little bit about that as well. Like, where do you start with that first hire, and then adding to the teams over the time?
Yes. Period. Where do you start?
Where do you start? Well, someone just asked me in a property management meeting that we had a couple weeks ago, and he said, I'm just one person. And I said, what you do is you look at your strengths and your weaknesses as the owner or the key manager, and you find someone that's complementary to you that you can hire. And I'll give you a really good example. So with me, I'm a visionary. I'm a people person. I love people. I love to share. I found that Christine Gooden, who's worked for me for 18 years, has opposite qualities as me. So I could go A to Z, and then she fills in the gaps. And she's a practical, and she's really good at implementing. So really, for the audience to really find someone that complements their personality, especially if they have a small staff.
How did you find Christine?
18 years ago.
Right. I know it's not the same strategies.
It's interesting because, and I hear this a lot, especially, at PM Grow and some of the other conferences, is, how do you find the right person? You hire with attitude. You want someone with a good attitude. They don't necessarily have to have property management experience. She came, believe it or not, through a Craigslist ad. Back in the day, that's what everybody did.
Yeah.
She did not know what property management was. She came and she interviewed, and she said she called her dad afterwards. I really like that lady, but what's property management again, Dad? And she's gone on to get all her designations in the field. So she's got her RMP designation, which is in NARPM, the Residential Management Professional, and then an MPM, a Master Property Manager. So that really works especially when you're small. You want to just add in complementary strengths.
Yeah.
It's interesting, right? So I can give you another example is my son now. When he was growing up, he would work, during high school and college, and he would say, Mom, nobody grows up and wants to be a property manager. And guess what he is? He's a property manager. Well, he's a BDM, which was the buzzword from PM Grow.
Right.
So he is a business development manager. And I had never heard of that until PM Grow came along.
Really?
BDM. I love it.
And how's he liking that, though?
Loves it. His twos, now again, you find the strengths. So Matt's a really good photographer. So he does all of our marketing for our properties. And then he's really good with people. And I think people like the idea that he's my son. And that, you work with your mom. So it's family. We say family owned, community focused. So giving back.
So did he join the team, through that role, or did he start working with a team through a different role and he grew into becoming BDM?
That's a great question. I think what makes him a really good BDM is that he has been the property manager. So he got his real estate license when he was 19 and went on to get his broker's license. So we have a really good backup in case anything ever happened to me or in case I want to retire someday. He has his broker's license, which allows him in California to qualify to be the lead in a property management company.
That's important.
Very important.
That's good. So when you mentioned Matt was a property manager before his current role, is that kind of consistent with everybody in your office? Or, I mean, obviously people don't start out as a property manager all of the time, but are there other people that you work with?
Remember, I didn't start out as
exactly.
Well, the best role I will tell you is the ones, a lot of people start in the front desk role, receptionist role, and now we have our phones answered live by a virtual assistant. So that roles changed. But the best ones is the ones that have been, like Christine, assistant property manager, and really kind of learn through the ropes.
They start kind of from the ground up.
Yes. And doing everything. I still do everything. I'll do.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't do well is they don't really like me in the bookkeeping department. Yeah. And my bookkeeper's been with me 13, almost 14 years.
How do you keep people so long? How do you keep them happy and
motivated?
Yeah.
The first word I think of is respect. So I always think to myself, what is it like to be the employee? And look at both sides of things. So respect is a key word that comes. The first thing, like when you're telling me that, first thing that comes to my mind is, what really works is to respect one another. We have a very good benefit package. We just started a 401k, 4% match.
4%.
So they'll put in 5%. We do a 4% match. That is how you keep someone happy.
Yeah.
You let them grow with you. Don't ever let them feel like they can't learn more. Because I'm 37 years and I haven't missed one of the PM grows yet.
Yeah.
Been to all three. So I think it's
still growing.
It's still where I never stop learning, and respect to each other and building is really important.
Yeah. So I was just curious. So you said you recently implemented a 401k package with 4% matching. Did that come out of your own strategizing to keep people happy, or do you have some sort of way for people to give suggestions on how to make the workplace better, and that's how you got the idea?
So it's a combination. We pay the medical after 90 days. We pay a dental program after a year. And what we were talking about in our last staff meeting was that you don't know what makes somebody else happy. So you ask. And some of the key managers came and said, when I do the reviews, I said, what would make you really happy? They said, well, we would love to have a retirement program. And we asked around other NARPM members, actually. Wow. And we asked around, and I did the research. It's a lot of work to get it up and running. I'm the one doing the work, so I can tell you. But you know what? People are really happy. They feel really valued.
Yeah.
And I think that's how you keep somebody. And we take them to the conferences. At CalNARPM, the California State Association, where everybody comes together for that, the property managers. We had 8 people there. That to me tells them I'm interested in investing in them, and it makes people see that there's like teamwork within property management.
There's positivity. It's not just the day-to-day of dealing with fires and whatever you guys are handling. There's people out there that are passionate about property management.
Well, so and how nice is it to be able to meet the vendors? Like you guys are
there talk to them all the
supporting,
time.
and then to meet the teams. So now they can say, oh yeah, 4.5, we met. And so I think that is also a really nice touch.
Yeah, we met a couple of your team there.
Yeah, we had 8. That was a big group. And it's an expense, but it's worth it. It is really worth it. And kind of, I used to say, when we go to places like Hawaii, it's like job security.
Yeah.
The other thing I will tell you is that some of the things that you really have to look at is the beginning stages of how you want to hire. And I think some of the things we do is we really put it clearly in the job ad that we'd like a cover letter. We want to set them up for success, right? So we put in that we like a cover letter. We put in that please send your resume and cover letter, along with, and we do a very simple typing test. Most people know it's really more about following direction.
Yeah.
And then we will ask them to do Tony Robbins' personality test.
Oh, interesting.
And it's really interesting to see, like for me, as I'm looking maybe to hire a part-time assistant. Well, when we did the personality test on the interview we did last week, the gal had a lot of red, which is strength and dominance. And, yellow, I'm really high yellow, which is a lot of personality, a lot of bubbly, people person. And you want somebody that's going to be really compliant. And you might consist of bookkeepers are really good to be compliant and very detailed. So by putting that in and telling people up front what we'd like, and if they don't want to do that, then how are you going to work together?
Yeah.
So it's finding the right person and how do you do that? And you're just a piece of paper too, so it's like some personality comes out on the cover letter, and then that Tony Robbins test really does.
Yeah, I want to think about that. I feel like I took it in like high school.
There's different
or
styles.
Something.
Yeah. There's different styles.
I don't even remember what I was, but I definitely know about it. But that's so interesting because we're hiring people right now, and we go through so many people that we say provide cover letter, resume, but most people don't. And I don't know why. Like, how many people do you have to go through that don't follow the instructions that you ask?
I really don't. I think I put it down in a bullet in the ad, and I said, please send the following. I try to make it really clear and concise.
Yeah.
Come work with a great team, great benefits package. But I think it's the way you maybe deliver it. Kind of spell it out. It works so our vendors that are listening and people that are servicing property managers, hiring a good team member works all the way around.
Yeah.
Because you just said yourself you're looking for a good team member.
Yeah.
And have multiple people interview. So I, as the owner, I'll do an interview, but then I leave, and I really want the person to feel comfortable with the team members. And so I leave the room and let them talk. Well, what's that boss like? So I think that's a good thing to do. We also have about 10 questions, which I'm happy to share with you and the audience. We can share it with the audience as well. But there's 10 questions or so, just about, like, for example, 3 words to describe yourself and why. And tell me 3 things you loved about your last job or your current job, and 3 things you dislike. Because nobody's perfect and no job is perfect.
Yeah.
And property management, it's challenging and it can be negative.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we try to fill it in with positive.
And is that during the interview, or is that like pre-qualifying them
before we ever do a live interview? That's
smart.
It saves a lot of time. And also, people tell me that by asking those, it's about 10 questions, it makes them think of the process. It makes you kind of go within and think about what it is you want in a dream job.
Yeah. That's really good advice.
The other thing I have to share with you is last year, October 31st, we spent an all day off property, all the staff. We went out to the coast in Alima, which is near where our office is, and we hired a husband and wife team. So we had kind of a great couple, but a 2-perspective team that worked with my team members to do some fun team building off-site. The managers came the night before and had a nice dinner together and spent the night at the hotel, and then the next day we spent the whole day doing team building, and it was incredible.
That's really great.
Very strong, and it really got people to get to know one another, and we laughed and we ate good food. And
do you feel like now it's brought the team closer together?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Is it a regular thing that you do, or is this the first of many?
We've done it. We've done it in the past, not as often as we'd like. We do try to do like a baseball game. We have a local baseball team here. We've done just some fun things, but now that as you get a little bit larger, it's a little more difficult because now you've got a lot of people and you got to get them there and transportation. I think a lot of our fun will always make time when we're at a conference together.
Yeah.
Is to make sure we have time for maybe a glass of champagne together, or just honoring. We honor their birthdays, we honor their anniversary days. I have to keep track of all those. It's not easy, even with our phones.
That must be nice, though. I mean, we do that at our work. It's always really nice. For like, today was one of our colleagues' 5-year anniversary, and she was mentioned during our morning meeting, and it's just it's nice to be recognized like that. So I think that's really cool that you do that, because it's so minor. It doesn't seem important, but making people feel special and valued goes a really long way.
That's true. But out of that retreat that we did, what we heard was more positivity. So Christine started a Positively Prandi board, and people write nice things to it, like congratulations or wow, way to go on a 5-star review. We work so closely with our reviews with you. We have done really well with our
you guys
reviews.
You guys do great.
So that's, working with 4.5, that's been a very positive. Our Googles and our Yelp reviews.
Well, and the only thing we're doing is asking. You guys are doing
the great
You guys are doing the good job.
Somebody's got to ask.
Yes.
We can't do it.
But that's a testament to your team when you get all of these positive reviews flowing in and very few negative. It's very easy. Well,
and they're really negative because one of the things we talked about a little bit as we were doing this today was, how do we handle negativity and how do we turn that around? And I think it's a lesson. It's a learning experience. So I'll start with me, for example. One day, Matt was in a hurry and he had multiple clients calling in and it was busy.
Yeah.
Hey, can you call this owner? He's got a duplex that's in this certain city and I don't have a time. I'm running out the door. So I didn't call right away. I waited till the afternoon and Matt would give it to me in the morning. And about 1:30, 2 o'clock, I made the call and the owner had already met with someone and signed. So he was ready to go, and Matt did tell me that.
Yeah.
And so I explained that to the teams by saying, response is everything. Here's what happened. Next time when I'm given something to do as far as new business goes, I'm going to make that call right away.
Yeah.
And even though that's as an example.
But that's a really good example because
got to lead by example, right?
Yeah, it is a good example. Well, first, because you, as the owner of the company, are coming to your team saying, hey, I'm not perfect. None of us are perfect, but here's what we do to improve ourselves. But yeah, it is a learning experience. I couldn't handle it. Maybe next time it gets handed to somebody else, and it gives people things to think about, to know that there are other ways to solve problems.
Well, you just said it right there. I could have said, well, you know what, I'm really slammed this morning with a bunch of paperwork that I'm doing. We have 4 or 5 people trained to do that same job. So I should have handed it off to someone else. So I give that as an example.
I think that's great.
Christine runs the property management training team meetings, which is also as you get larger, keeping the teams on the same page, doing the things consistently is hard to do. And so she has these trainings, and that has helped. Like, she gets feedback from them, making sure they're doing things consistently the same. Okay, give me your feedback.
So like a weekly meeting?
Yeah, they meet, I think every other week.
Every other week. And it just gets them in line.
Too. So there's a team lead and then an assistant property manager. Team lead is the property manager who has an assistant. They run 150 to 200 doors. And so that team lead and the team assistant have a meeting once a week.
Yeah.
And they pull in the virtual assistants when needed for their maintenance follow-up. So that is weekly. And then they send it to me and I can kind of just flow through and see if, wow, that property's been on the market a little bit long, no more than 30 days. Then I ask Christine to meet with them and find out what's going on with that. So the communication is key.
Yeah.
And having just the notes we use for our team meetings are exactly the same. So when I get them, there's 4 teams, and they're each done a certain, I can get them.
So that's
I like
your
things
process. So it's about communication, but it's also about establishing the process for the way that those team members are communicating.
Absolutely.
What if you have a really small team? Like, what's your advice for people that are just kind of starting out? Maybe they're hitting the growing pains where they're ready to hire their first employee. What strategy would you recommend to them?
Well, see, most company owners and property managers are, they're used to doing everything.
Yeah.
So what I think you need to do is first take a notepad out or take your computer or phone and write a list of a few things that you can stop doing. I call it a stop list. What are some things that I'm doing every day that I can hand off to someone else? The other thing that's worked really well for me is to put the person in the same office with me. So that when I start to do something, and if you have the right person, they're saying, let me take that. I can handle that. I can call the city for that permit. Well, I can do it.
Yeah.
So I had someone for 2 months, and she was fabulous, Tara. She's just had her 3-year anniversary. And after 2 months, I was like, she's so good. I got to move her into a property management lead position. So I moved her from my office into the team areas where she has her own office now. She's fabulous. If I had kept her with me, she might have gotten a little bored, although I doubt it. But I could see that she could really evolve, and she's done a fabulous job.
But that's a really good example, too, making sure to promote within instead of
boxing them into the role they were hired to do.
Yeah, you acknowledged. You're like, hey, she's surpassed what I expected her to do, and
She's
now
amazing.
Now we can give her more to do.
But I think if I was, to look at what works, so you start with a list of what you can stop doing.
Yeah.
And then you need to remember, I talked about finding someone with your opposite strengths.
Yeah.
So finding someone that, I'm not the most technical, I give it to Matt and say, here, can you fix my phone? So finding someone with your opposite strengths. And then somebody that, can do multitask. And I find that women do that really well. Men like to complete.
Yeah.
And women can usually have 4 or 5 things. We can hear a conversation next to us, be talking to one another, and move on.
That's me.
So, and then as you hire, let's say 1 or 2 people, and now you're a team of 3, sitting down and having check-ins. I mean, you made a comment about having a morning meeting.
Yeah.
That meetings and communication's really important. And then we have a company email that goes out to everybody at the same time. So you're not getting hearing about something we're doing in the company, and you've not heard. And that also is something to have one email that goes out to everybody all at once.
Yeah.
And be respectful of using that.
Yeah.
Because the last thing you want to do is get a bunch of emails.
Right.
I don't like reply all.
Yeah.
Because we're busy.
Reply all can be
abused.
Can be.
Yes, we have seen that abused a lot of times. So, it's really good information you're giving to people in terms of, finding the people to, welcome into your team, sort of figuring out what their strengths are. Maybe it's not exactly, the role you may have hired this person may not be the perfect role for them. And so acknowledging that there are times when it makes sense to maybe move them to a different department. That way they're more challenged. You're able to give them more opportunities.
Yeah, what happens if you do hire somebody that's really, really great, but not great for that position?
Yeah, like how do you, because you have to have a fit, right? They have to be willing to go to that new position,
well, and you
role.
can tell pretty quickly if someone takes a lead role. Like you can tell, like the assistant that I had, Tara, who she took a lead role. She also came from a background of assisting a property management company owner in San Francisco.
Oh.
So I knew she had strengths. And the pay is based a lot of time on the knowledge and the strengths of the person. So as you incentivize and you give people a little more money, the strength comes up with that, and they get little incentive bonuses and things like that. But I would say there was a time when I had a couple of runs where I didn't hire really well. They say hire slowly, fire fast. That's kind of the engagement. I tend to think I can change them and I can fix them or nurture them.
You get attached to them.
It's not a good fit, and you can kind of tell personality-wise. And sometimes you're doing someone a favor. You sit down and we would talk and just say, how do you think it's going? And we have a new hire that she's just about to finish her 60 days. 90 days we kind of keep a kind of a toll of how things are going. But the communication is saying, okay, what do you think so far? Property management's not for everybody. And it's a tough job. And they've got to feel comfortable doing it. And so just communicating. Because you might find out that they really don't like it. And the worst thing is when they don't like it and it spreads. You need to keep the negativity down in the business. You want to keep the team members positive to each other. Complimenting. Hey, good job.
It's okay to have a bad day, but there's a difference between having a bad day and then just bringing a bunch of negative energy.
Yeah. And that because the negative follows negative.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And I think that the team building that we did brought that positivity and the strength. It does have a little bit of chatter sometimes. People were afterwards. I noticed they were laughing a lot more, and there was a lot more. But again, respect, and I hear them laughing. Okay, now it starts to get a little bit louder. But they go to lunch together. They spend time together.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
We shut our office down from 12 to 1. So we lock the doors, shut the office down, and people can go to lunch together. They can sit around, talk about their weekend.
Yeah. They don't feel pressured to stay in the office because they're always, this happens to us too, there's always something to do. There's never not going to be anything to do, so you need to take breaks. You need to take time for yourself. So I
Walk
really
around
like
the
that.
block if you need to get some air.
Because it's forcing them to do it. Because I think a lot of people that are very hardworking will just say, nope, I can work my way through lunch, or no, I don't need to do that because I have X, Y, and Z to do. And it sounds like you have a team that's very hardworking. So I feel like that's a really good example to set for them. Again, we're locking down the office.
Yeah.
It's time for you to take your break.
Make sure nobody's burnt out, you know. You want people to be
fresh,
healthy and happy and fresh. So to go back to what you said about hiring slow, firing fast. So for our listeners, if they're not quite sure what that means, like in a concrete way, how does hiring slow, firing fast look like to a small business where they're kind of desperate to get someone in and they're like, you already spent so much time training this person, and then well, maybe if I give it 2 more weeks, like how do you then
let's start with the hiring part, which by earlier I told you I have more than one person interview. Word of mouth, put it out there to your small group of friends and people you know. It may not be that person you're talking to, but I was really fortunate to hire Crystal, who came from a friend of mine in Rotary, and I knew Crystal from Rotary because I love Rotary, giving back. But I just put it out there. This one gal I know, her name's Mo, and she knows everybody. So I'm like, hey, by chance, she's not looking for a job. She works for the county of Marin. But I said, hey Mo, by chance, do you know anybody that's a really great person that, you know how we love our employees. Do you know anybody that you would recommend? She says, I do have someone in mind. Let me talk to her first.
Oh.
So lo and behold, she did, and Crystal came in, and she's amazing. And so that's a way of hiring slowly, but also through word of mouth. And then making sure that you're letting other people talk to them, so it's not just the one person. And if you're a small company, I'm sure you have a colleague or someone that could help. Would you mind, maybe sitting in on an interview, if it's somebody that you work with? And then the firing part, you're right. I'm a hanger-oner. I've gotten better, but right now I have the best team I've ever had. So I feel really confident in that area. And I made a lot of, 37 years, I've made my mistakes in my hiring. I did have a girlfriend one time, went through the resumes, and she's got a psychology degree. And so I said, do me a favor, here's a stack of resumes, cover letters. Go through and put a 1, 2, and 3 on the front of these. Give me your first, second, and third choice. And she found somebody fabulous, and she said, this gal has a really good resume. She's going to be great. You may not have her more than 1 year, but it's going to be the best year of your life. And that was Kaylee, and she lasted 8 years with me.
Oh, wow.
She's now a mom, and her husband's still my IT guy. So, it works. You just don't know. Must have kept her happy.
Right. You were talking, going a little bit back, we talked about the 401k, which you've implemented. What are some other incentives that you give your team? Or you also mentioned giving them like little pay bumps here and there. Maybe let's talk about incentives and then maybe go into a schedule or something that you have in place for your reviews. Is it annually? Is it biannually?
Well, the first thing I will tell you is to ask. Because you may think you know what somebody wants when sometimes it's just a day off.
Yeah.
And so I watch their even my managers that turn in their timesheets, and I watch their hours, and I look down and see at a pay cycle to see what they're doing. And I say, you know what, this coming Friday you're going to leave at 1, and I want you to start your weekend early. So giving them time really doesn't cost me money. It gives them value of taking time off. We talked about it not being burned out, right?
Yeah.
Then we have, so the first 90 days, they do what's called an EOD, end of day report. So they send me a very simple bulleted email, tell me what their day's like, and then rating their days. 1, 2, 3. 1 being a fairly slow day, I could have taken more. 3 meaning, oh my God, my day went by so fast, and it was a great day. And then they go 2, 2.5. I like people around 2, 2.5. If it gets to be 3, I need to see who else can support them. Maybe they need some help. And that's really more the newer people. And then every once in a while I do a check-in with my staff. All right, tell me how things are going. What would you say your rating is with your workload? And if you don't tell me, I have no way of knowing.
Yeah.
So, it's good to have them. I can tell when I walk in and somebody's frantic to get something done. And my team will support one another. Teaching them to take their blinders off and look around and say, well, I'm not as busy as this other team 2. Maybe I can go help.
Yeah.
And everybody's busy, but
yeah,
we all have busy lives.
And is that something you teach them to do, or do they just kind of do it on their own?
No, we really talk about support. And I think the team building helps with that. So I think that's part of the benefits. The medical is important to a lot of people. So having a medical program, it's very expensive. So you can say you pay up to a certain amount of money, what your budget allows. The dental, to me, is a perk. After a year, you get a dental plan. It's not really expensive, and I pay for it. Time off, paid time off. We do vacation and sick. We do separate them still. Some people just do PTO. But just recognizing when it looks like someone needs a break and keeping them, consistent. And then we do we do a 90-day review. We do a year review. Somewhere around the 1 year at a time, we pull them in. And then we do, up until last year, we did year-end bonuses. But the 401k started also because I saw how much they got out of the bonus. So if I gave someone a bonus and the good old taxes come in play, it didn't feel as good as what I was writing. I wanted to give them the whole thing, but I can't. I have to take taxes on. Everybody that works for Prandi Property Management is an employee. So they're all full benefit packaged.
That's cool. That's really good advice. What about those, because you said it's expensive. What can you do if you're just, again, if you are just somebody that
doesn't cost a lot of money to give them a day off with pay, or give them a beach day if they're on the beach.
So even if you can't afford all of the benefits in the 401k, start just small things like that will make a big difference in keeping people and keeping them happy.
And ask them what makes them important, what's really important. I had one employee that worked with me for 5 years. He's since gone, but he liked the Giants. So to put a Giant sweatshirt on his chair with some tickets.
Oh yeah.
Come on,
that's really cool.
And it's personalized, so it shows that you know your people and they feel appreciated. Like, hey, I am not just a cog in a wheel. You know. I think it goes a long way. All the little things that you're doing to make your team feel like they are a team, right? And that they are valued. So from giving time off, actually asking them. I think a lot of employers don't do a lot of asking because there's a lot of assumptions, right? So I think you're giving us a lot of good insight as to how to keep a team happy, how to keep a team from getting burnt out, so that, not working X number of hours doesn't necessarily mean you don't get things done, right? So sometimes you get more things done when you're fresh. But you mentioned something about performance reviews. So what goes into the performance reviews? Because one of the things you mentioned was, hey, tell me what your workload's like. But you're a business, so there are other things you also have to look at when it's performance, right? So what other things do you look at? When do you communicate that to the team members, and sort of like, what's your process?
So that's a good question. So I can gauge on how many rentals. So for example, we have 4 teams. So I can gauge on what the workload's like. Well, they get incentivized. So if they bring on 3 new clients in their portfolio, they're incentivized. Matt may be signing the new clients, but then somebody has to take them on. So as they get new clients, they get a little incentive bump. It's not, just enough to, like, they could get a move-in bonus. So each time, let's say, for example, they turn over 10 properties in their portfolio, they each get $25. Well, it's not bad. $25 times 10, it's $250.
Yeah.
And so they know each other's, oh, God, that's great. We had this many bonuses, and Matt's been tracking some of the numbers now. That we haven't gotten clear. We were really working on the KPIs, the key performance indicators. And that's something that Christine and I are working on now, to really kind of find a new way to do reviewing. Because now we've been doing it the same way for so long. We want to find some new ways to review. So we're working on that right now. Some new ways to sit down. And a lot of it's just talking. And we know. And my staff's really good. So, they get paid well, and I think that's why they stay, but it isn't always about money. Again, I think the word respect came to mind right when you asked me that question.
That's great.
Respecting them and finding out their needs is, I think, the top thing I'd recommend.
I keep kind of going back to asking you questions about cost. What does a good employee save you? Like, have you thought about that before, and just the
Headaches.
benefits? Right.
So, of course, turnover. And you mentioned it earlier about the time it takes to train somebody. So, I wouldn't put a dollar on it as I would the value of time. So, if you have to go through training, so when we first went to our first PM Grow Summit, and we heard the word BDM, but Business Development Manager, we were trying to figure out, how do we get 2 key people in my operation? I call them my bookends: Matt, my son, and Christine Gooden. So how do I get them off running a portfolio well, we got to have them help me find their replacement, right?
Yeah.
So that was really hard. I made a bad hire. I actually made both teams. I made a bad hiring on both sides, which delayed us and really could have caused burnout to both Matt and Christine, because stress levels went up. Matt was trying to balance new business and his 200,
training plus.
Yeah, and
new
Christine
job.
does the training, but Matt knew the portfolio.
Oh.
So it put a lot of pressure on both of them. And when people are pressured, the stress comes out.
Yeah.
And so I need them to get along. I need them to be my bookends. So, by hiring, the first gal was a gal that I knew. She wasn't a good fit. She wanted to be like, she wanted my job probably for the first few months. No, but seriously, it wasn't a really good fit. She's a really wonderful person, but property management wasn't for her. And then we hired Matt's replacement, and I hung on to him too long. It wasn't a great fit. I was busy, and I figured, well, Matt, can't you just make it work? I mean, he seems like a nice enough guy. And it didn't work. So when I had to start over again, and that's when you find the right. One of our employees, Shannon, had worked for me for actually several years, and then left. And I marked my calendar. She said she was going to give real estate sales a year. And I contacted her about 3 weeks before that year, and said, so what do you think? You want to come back? So she was a natural to be a lead in Christine's role.
Oh.
Now, Matt was getting married, because he got married last year in October. So we said, let's do this. Let's not give Matt too much change. Let's get Christine to step in and help train Matt's replacement. And Christine's really a good trainer. So when you have a really good trainer, use those skills. And she's, again, detailed. So, so both of my key people. So now I was able to, Matt's full-time BDM of photography, and Christine is training and property management support. And so those two roles are key for my success. And I got 2 long-term people in those roles. And, they can come in and talk about what's next. And Matt's working on our new website and those kind of things. But, moving them into those. And again, I didn't do it. It wasn't a home run the first time. Don't be afraid to see what you did wrong or what the strengths or weaknesses were of the person that you were trying to fit in the role. And both times, the first one that was replacing Christine, we both agreed. Just she wasn't enjoying it, and it didn't take very long. But the one that Matt had, I kept him too long, and he wasn't enjoying it either. And the commute, we had a bad commute, and so I let him. Help pay for the train to come down, and after a while, you just have to find the right person, and sometimes it takes going through a few different people to meld it. Now we're so happy because we've got the right people on the team.
So don't get discouraged.
Don't get discouraged.
Yeah.
And again, use people on your team to help hire the next one. Even if you're only 2 people in a company, it's small. Use the strengths of those 2 people and separate the interviews so that you can come back and talk about it. If we were all 3 working together to hire somebody, the 2 of you might do an interview, and then I might do the next interview, and then you can come through and maybe do some review rating and talk about the.
And that makes so much sense. We do it that way too, and it's interesting when we have gone outside of the strategy that we use, where we have a few people interview it and say it's just one person that interviews that team member. Usually that team member is a person that doesn't really stick around very long.
Interesting.
What happens if you have Matt and 2 other employees interview someone, and one person really likes them but the other 2 don't?
You're reading my mind. So that happened. I really liked this girl, and I thought she was going to be fabulous. And we did our scoring, and she was scored. Then we did three of our contenders, and she was the second in the chain of the scoring points. And I really pushed for her, and she worked for us for a week. But the other gal who they both loved is amazing. She's working for us now. She is a rock star. We like to use that term because this gal does everything. And she's supporting 2 teams, and she's amazing.
Wow.
And it was like, oh, okay, that didn't work. But
Wow.
But you learned from it. So now going forward, do you think that you'd do that again? Or if 2 other people were very much in love with a different candidate?
I think you're going to look at the score. You do the scoring for a reason.
And then you trust it.
And in that case, they were right.
Yeah.
And if it's admitting they were right, and I'm like, okay. But she's the girl that we have now is amazing. So
Yeah.
At least you have the rock star now.
Yeah.
I was curious to know, seems like you have this process down pat for, hiring people. Do you follow the same process for virtual assistants, remote team members, or even vendors?
So we do. So our virtual, we do the same process.
Uh-huh.
We have a scoring sheet, and we get provided some of the questions and maybe a little bit of variety because our virtual assistant's a little different.
Mm-hmm.
We have 2 virtual assistants that do our maintenance and our work orders and follow up with our vendors. And then we have one that answers our phones live. She's a rock star. That's my Christy. I get to communicate with her a lot because her and I kind of oversee the role a little bit more than most. And she does all of our insurance for our clients, so as people are looking to fill. The good thing about that is as you talk about financial and like where a virtual assistant, I have 3 virtual assistant, and I pay more than one person in Marin County based salaries. I have 3 virtual assistants that cost me less than one full-time person that's maybe driving in the traffic or commuting. Or I'm flexible on time too, so that's I'm not a clock watcher where they check in and have to punch in. I don't really like people to come in before 7:30 in the morning because they can't do their phone calling and their job. They flex between 8 and 9 usually, and some of the managers coming down the freeway may come in at 10, but they're there at 6:30 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
So not making anybody 8 o'clock's our start time. Having some flexibility there, and life happens. I need to leave early on Friday. We're going out of town.
Yeah.
Be flexible.
I think that's another incentive too, though.
Mm-hmm.
Just being able to work in a flexible work environment if you're able to offer that.
Matt brought his dog to work one day. We don't normally do that,
That
but
sounds wonderful.
he has a new dog, and she's pretty mellow. And he said, "Hey, I really would." And
Mia?
the staff loved it. They were saying, "Oh my God, that dog is." Even Christine doesn't have a dog. She said, "Oh, she came in and she said she put her paws on her knees and she came in to look at her and say, 'Hi, I'm here.'" So I think that kind of people liked it.
Yeah.
So I don't have a dog, but and I wasn't here, so I made sure staff knew that there wasn't sneaking.
Yeah.
The boss is away and.
Yeah, Matt waited until Melissa was gone.
Exactly. And Matt doesn't call me mom at work or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. We have a good relationship, and so bringing the dog, several people made comments to me about it, and I'd never done that before.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. Bring your dog to work day. Oh, I got to talk about what we do in December.
Oh, what do you do?
Fun. We also have fun Fridays, but December we do
Fun Fridays every Friday?
on December.
In December, okay. I'll let you talk. Tell us everything.
It's really fun. So we do it either Friday or Wednesdays, depending on the schedule of how the holidays fall. And you team up with someone you don't normally work with, and you have to plan the meals. I reimburse everybody for the lunch and the drinks, and we have iced tea, or we're not drinking wine in the middle of the day. But so we do, and then they play games. So one day we had wear your pajamas to work day. That was during December. That was really fun.
I'm gonna do that.
And then we've done, bring something to give back to somebody in the community.
Oh.
We've done theme meals like Mexican or Italian or some kind of a theme meal. But the fun part of it is you might not work with the members in Team 1, but Team 1 and Team 4 are working together. And then, and Christine kind of picks out who's, she does a name draw or whatever.
Make sure everyone works with someone to have it.
So bookkeeping, for example, there's 2, the manager and assistant manager in the bookkeeping. So we separate them because they work together every day, and we put them on. Maybe Shirley's in charge of the fun, Matt's in charge of the drinks, and the 2 other members will bring food, and then we have lunch together, and the energy's great. Everybody's laughing. We've had to wrap presents with our hands behind our back and team up, and I'm trying to cut the rib. Oh yeah, so that's, and then they do, like Christine will do Hawaiian Friday, or just come up with I was out of town a couple weeks ago, and they did game day. So they had a game, like they brought a couple different board games in and had some fun. We've done charades. We've done. We had one where the candy canes were on the table and you had to put your hands behind your back and you had to take a candy cane and pick up other candy canes, put them in a basket, and we did.
Oh my!
And they're competitive.
Yeah.
So that is also really fun. What does
It's
that
not
cost
expensive.
you?
How much is a candy cane?
Yeah, and you can have little prizes like we'll have
After
little gift cards.
Christmas.
Yes, after
Don't get around, I get sick. But no, that you can just sense, you can hear the energy, people laughing, and when I'm not there, they send me pictures.
Aww.
So that, and now we started
really
with
cool.
our newsletter that you all are doing our newsletter, right? So we're starting to have more accountability for them taking control of the newsletter. So they're writing it. We want them to have a photo of who's done it. Different team members are writing it. So they're contributing.
Yeah.
There's always something more they're doing.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
never
so,
boring.
Never boring.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun to wear at Prandi. I'm jealous.
Oh, we have Prandi shirts. Usually, I didn't wear one today, but we have Prandi shirts and the logo wear, which everybody should have.
Yes, everybody should. We should get some.
We have some. Our sweatshirts.
You didn't give me.
You have to get one for the new one.
Oh.
Oh, you want Prandi one? Oh.
Yeah, we do. We should.
We give
get
away
some
pens,
stuff.
Prandi pens. We give a lot of those
You
away.
can get some.
Yeah.
I was curious though. Do you do anything for the vendors to, during the holiday season? Do you, invite them to one of these fun Friday lunches? Make them feel.
Yeah, and we're talking about like your local vendors, not necessarily. Yeah.
You guys just want to come over and have lunch?
No, of course. We are local. I didn't even think that.
You are local.
We are local.
So yeah, we do. We've done some vendor training, which has been really well too. Where we have an open house where they come in and do some vendor training. But they actually buy us lunch, and if they do, we do a lunch and learn. So if they want to come in and buy my staff lunch, they can come in and talk about water restoration. They can come in and talk about what to look for in the from plumbing perspectives as we're looking underneath the sinks and things.
Yeah.
And a lot of them will do a lunch and learn because they want to get in front of us. But then also just having them, they like to bring in lunch during the holidays, pick a date, and then they'll come and eat with us. And they really kind of treat us a lot, because they're think about that.
Yeah.
They're
You're sending them a lot of business.
shopping, and they're, billing, and they work hard, but we're only as good as they are. If they slip and don't take care of something, those reviews the maintenance are the highest reviews that come in. So if we take something on time and we called the vendor went out, it makes us look good. Yeah. So that keeping them happy is really important.
And I think, like treating them as if they are really part of your team, because they are. From your client's point of view, you're associated with them. And so it's important to not just think, oh, that's the plumber's problem, because, that's the plumber.
Well, we don't have, we have Tony, who's our maintenance manager. So he oversees the vendors, and then he has now Anne, who came to work. She's our newest team member. And then the virtual assistants. So, we get virtual assistants do an EOD, end of day report every day.
Oh.
So we can see how many work orders they started, so at any given time, I get it just to read it, but it goes to the team lead, so Tony and Ann are the managers in that department. So again, it's seeing the workload, and if they all of a sudden have 3 days in a row that they're a high 3, then we need to look at the workload, and maybe somebody in the team needs to step in and help out. So
you mentioned maintenance. If maintenance goes wrong, that's the first way you're going to get bad reviews. How do you handle that then from the vendor perspective when you start seeing negative reviews come in through your vendor? How do you overcome that? Do you find a different vendor, or do you talk to them?
So we're only as good as the team, as you said.
Yeah.
So the first thing we have to do is educate them, give them our expectations, how quickly they respond. Tony's really good with that. So we give you a work order. What's the expectation? A phone call that day, set up the appointment. If you can't reach them, come back to us and let us know. So first thing you do is set up your expectation. Then if we get several complaints, Tony will bring them in. He just had one come in and talk to them. Sometimes it's not a good fit, or there's something going on and they're too busy. So, we have to kind of balance what's going on their end of it, just like you would with anything.
Yeah.
When a tenant calls up and they're upset, there's something else sometimes going on. And so with the vendors, they're an important part of our success.
Yeah. I like that you said setting expectations, though, because I feel like oftentimes when I do read a negative review about maintenance, or even talk to a property manager that's asking, what do I do about this negative review? A lot of times the answer is, well, the vendor tried to call the tenant, but the tenant didn't pick up, and then they were just waiting for a return call back. So I really like
proactive.
That. Yeah, you set the expectation. You say if they don't pick up.
But also then on that note, it's up to me. The buck stops with me. Yeah. So a couple weeks ago, I had someone that was really upset, and rightfully so. It took a week to get a refrigerator replaced. They started out trying to repair it, so let's just say that takes a day or two.
Yeah.
But I got the brunt of it, because if that tenant's not happy or something's not done, the buck stops with me as the owner. So it was almost an hour phone call. It was not a fun phone call.
Yeah.
But it was my Friday. It was the end of my day. I figured let's just came in. Let's
take care of it.
It's so much easier to pick up the phone and call.
Yeah.
So if a tenant's not happy, I empower my staff to, What can we do to make them happy?
Yeah.
That same particular person, I sent her a nice handwritten card with a $150 gift card for a restaurant. So, I just said, look, I'm sorry we're not perfect, but I wanted to talk to you. And she did not write a bad review. She said, you just saved yourself from getting a 1-star review.
Yeah.
I also like the staff to know if someone's challenging them, come to me. Let me support you. And Christine as well. Come and say, hey, I've got this challenging on or whatever. So then they feel like they're supported. I answer it in all my emails. When they need something, I'm there.
Yeah.
And I think they know even I'm not sitting in the office, I'm going to take care of what I say I'm going to do.
I think
lead by example.
Yeah. I think that's really important to make your team feel like you have their back. So that if, for example, they're getting the brunt of this really, really bad tenant and they're being called names and voices are being raised, and it's easy to say don't take it personally, but sometimes it's hard. And so just knowing that, hey, I can reach out to people in my team to help me deal with this person because I'm emotionally charged goes a long way.
Well, being able to lean on a manager.
Yeah.
So sometimes we work in teams, as I told you. So 1, 2, 3, 4 team, right? Team 1, team 2. Sometimes taking another person, like going to Christine or going to myself or even another manager and saying, look, I have this tough one, can you step in? Because suddenly you're on the back burner of that. So I think that's really important.
Yeah. It goes back to respect.
Yeah.
It's all
the way around.
You also mentioned empowering them. So you empower them to make decisions as to, okay, we really did wrong by this tenant or owner. You're empowered to suggest to the team, okay, what can we do to make it better? And it's not just like, that's your problem because you forgot to follow up because you were dealing with 10 other houses.
Yeah.
It's like, what can we do to make it better?
Well, they send out, so one of the things that's on our weekly team meeting, on the very bottom it says thank you note sent. And so we have stacks of, $5 Starbucks card. It's basically a cup of coffee now, right? So we have the stacks on it, and it says how many thank you cards did you write? And if so, who do they go to? And you'd be surprised how many times it's a vendor or even a team member. They can send they can send a thank you note to someone else on the team.
Yeah.
And so that, if we can't get a lot of positivity always on the outside, we need to get it on the inside. And I will say to you that one time when our reviews weren't as good as they are today, I think that I was tasking the staff. Maybe that was just too much. And you have to have people happy on the inside of the walls of your office, because when they're happy on the inside together, it'll spread out.
Yeah.
And when they're not happy, believe me, that also happens. So you can tell when you got things going really good, and just telling them, this is the best team I ever had. Let them know that. Good job. We got a 5-star Google review day before yesterday, and that's already been copy pasted, sent out to everybody saying, great job, Tony and the maintenance team. We got another 5-star review, and then they'll put on the positively Prandi.
And that's free too. That doesn't cost you anything. Just saying we appreciate you. And
Matt wants to do an incentive on reviews. If you get a 5-star review and your name's mentioned, or something that we could do back.
Like, a lot of people are doing those. Paige, one of our account managers, actually did a blog about that recently.
Oh yeah.
Just best ways to incentivize people, and there are a number of things that you could do. That's interesting.
Well, you want to make sure that the one thing I don't ever want to happen is that I don't want one team member to be going against another team member. So we were trying to think of a way that we could say if somebody gets a review, that team gets something, but everybody celebrates. So we have ice cream sundae Friday, or we have, like right now we just got that one, we should be celebrating together.
Yeah.
Because it's not fair if the bookkeeping aren't in the front lines and they don't get
they never get reviews because they're
really good
they're
point.
behind, doing the computer work and the paying the bills. So, but the key, I think, to everything that you do is treat everybody like you want to be treated. I mean, you just look at yourself and say, how would I feel if I was that person, and what would make me happy? And then, it's a two-way street, and how would it be? And I wouldn't want anybody to treat me differently other than with respect. So I always look at the other side of the if I'm sitting on the other side of the desk, how would it be? And then they see me. I come in every morning. I come in, no matter what's going on, I say good morning to everybody. I come in and say good morning as I walk in the door. How are we doing?
So it's funny. We keep saying you're only as good as your team, which is important. But I also feel like your team is only as good as you. is also as true.
Yeah.
Like, treat others the way you want to be treated.
Lead by example.
Lead by example.
All those
So
sayings
it's
are there
like
for a reason.
they all connect, and everything you do makes an impact. I think that's like one of the biggest takeaways.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're dealing with people all day long, right? This is the people business.
Yeah.
And the only people
Customer
that don't have to
service.
do as much, it used to be the bookkeepers, but my bookkeepers are touching the clients all the time. So, I think that it's style. We like to give back in the community, so like-minded people do business with like-minded people. So you not only get business, but you attract them to come to work for you by doing that. And I think, again, what earlier I said, don't be afraid to watch them grow. Let them learn how to do things better. Let them take classes. Let your staff and your members grow.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't start out doing all this.
No, Marie and I both started out as interns.
Really?
We were just posting blogs for our clients. That's all we did.
So that is a really good thing for the audience today, is that, now here we're going into summer. College kids are getting out.
Yeah.
Bring in an intern. And, that intern could really start doing work that you realize that you could bring someone in full time.
Right.
It doesn't have to be full time.
Exactly.
So start somewhere, right? Look what 4.5 got when they had interns. So, love it.
Yeah. Well, even John, our CEO, he technically started this.
So he kind of started. He wasn't like an intern, but he wasn't paid.
Yeah. So
yeah.
And I mean, and that's what we've had the most success with. I think most of the people on our team, we hire kind of as an intern to train them and see what their capabilities are. But like you said, everything's a service industry. It's a people business. So it kind of gives us time to see if people are good with people.
Well, you need the technology too. So Matt's really good at technology. And actually, Christine is really good. She helps me with doing my PowerPoints
fortunate.
And build things together too. So again, finding the strengths and admitting your weaknesses.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a visionary and I'm going to be the one forward thinking. But I'm not going to be maybe not as practical when I say, I want it done tomorrow. Not going to happen, Melissa, but we can get it done in a couple of weeks. Let's just make sure we know what page you're on, communicating it. So, and making sure people know when other people are off. We have a good master calendar.
Yeah.
So that we can only have so many people have the time off.
Yeah.
So having a master calendar of seeing who's off and when, another visual, and we color coordinate things. Our calendars are all color coordinated. That's fun too.
Yeah. Is yours purple?
That's my favorite color. How did you know that?
Wild guess. I don't know.
Prandi colors.
Purple's a good color.
Purple is, yeah.
Purple is my other favorite color. I just switched to yellow recently, trying to...
It's a phase. It's always been purple.
Yeah.
What colors, when I first was going to get the Prandi shirts, I was thinking, I'm going to get everybody the same, and it doesn't work. Let them pick out what flatters them. This one wants to wear that stuff. Let them be individual, and then we put the logo on it. And we just
That's a
did
good point. That's really cool.
Yeah. I thought I was going to get them, okay, everybody can have this style, and I'm like, it doesn't work.
Yeah,
so I said, okay,
it doesn't.
Go through and pick out a shirt or a sweater, whatever it is, guys or girls. And, we have mostly women in it. We have 2 men that work for us, and maintenance manager, and then my son. So Tony and Matt, and then the rest are all ladies.
Yeah.
And, they hit it out of the park in this field. They're, like I said earlier, multitasking, detail-oriented, nurturing. In this business, you have to be nurturing.
Yeah.
So, I'd say to the audience that you got to start somewhere. And, ask the person, too, if it's time to look within, as you said, it's nice to hire within and promote within. But, they might not want the job. So before you think you know what they want, ask.
Very good advice. Well, those are all... I don't have any other questions. I think this was really, really helpful, Melissa, honestly. Like, even... I keep this notebook to take notes of questions I want to ask you, but I was also jotting down ideas for myself.
Good.
While we were talking.
I know. You want me to share my questions?
Yes. I was going to see. Your questions, and would you feel comfortable sharing like your scoring model, or do you have something like that you could share?
We have a scoring model that we use for virtual assistants, and then I think Christine has a scoring model. I'll ask her to.
Cool, that would be wonderful if we could share that with people.
I think it's helpful for sure.
Yeah.
But I think the pre-interview questions are really important, and then to see where somebody's coming from, and how they describe themselves.
Yeah.
And of course, they have to relate to your business, right? So I think spending time to figure out what questions will lead you to insights that are useful for your business is helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah, all good information. Thank you so much for spending time with us.
It's fun.
It's always wonderful to speak with you, and always looking up to, the things that you're doing. You're always looking for things to, improve in your company, with your team and whatnot, and even the community. So
thank you. I like doing it.
You're killing it.
I'm having fun. Come on, 37 years, I'm still going to every conference. So
yeah,
I mean, so I think we never stop learning.
Yeah.
I think that's the key factor as you hire. Be open-minded, be respectful, and know that you never stop learning.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for listening. As always, if you have any topics that you want us to cover, let us know, because Marie and I love talking and would love to to interview anybody that you're interested in. So thank you.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Thank you.